Have you ever felt like the more you understand the world, the more distant you become from it? That as your thoughts grow deeper, the people around you seem to drift away? It's not your imagination. The loneliness of intelligence is real, and it's been quietly shaping the lives of philosophers, scientists, artists, and visionaries for centuries. Not because they were unkind, not because they were antisocial, but because they saw what others refused to see. From Kierkegaard to Hypatia, from Nietzsche to Simone Weil, history is filled with minds who were exiled, mocked, or simply ignored, not for their lack of clarity, but for the discomfort their insights caused. But what exactly makes deep thinking so difficult for society to embrace? Why does clarity of thought so often lead to social isolation? To understand this, we need to begin not with philosophy, but with biology. You see, human beings are wired for survival, and part of that survival depends on social cohesion. For tens of thousands of years, being part of the group meant safety, and standing out meant risk. So when someone starts questioning the foundations of belief, of morality, of meaning, it doesn't just challenge ideas, it threatens the equilibrium. And this creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, that mental discomfort we feel when new information shakes the foundation of our beliefs. Now imagine what happens when someone constantly causes that discomfort, not through argument, not through arrogance, but simply by being themselves, curious, questioning, unwilling to accept easy answers. That person becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, others see their own contradictions, and most people don't want to look too closely. This is the beginning of the thinker's isolation, not because they withdraw, but because they're pushed away, subtly, gradually, socially. Let's break it down further. When you meet someone physically stronger, you might feel admiration or even inspiration. When someone's wealthier, you might feel envy, but rarely rejection. These traits are visible, external, and don't necessarily challenge how you see yourself. But intelligence? That's different. Because intelligence doesn't just present an advantage, it introduces a threat to the ego. It exposes gaps in our knowledge. It questions the assumptions we've built our lives on. And worst of all, it's often invisible. You don't always know a deep thinker is in the room until they say something that pierces the surface. And suddenly, the tone changes. People shift in their seats. They laugh nervously. They change the subject. It's not rudeness, it's self-protection. Social psychology has a name for this too. The threat of upward comparison. When someone around us seems more competent in a domain we value, like intelligence, we feel small, and instead of asking questions or showing interest, we retreat, we resist, we reject. This is why you'll find that deep conversations, the ones that matter, are so rare in everyday life, because true inquiry, it doesn't flatter the ego. It humbles it. But here's the paradox. The deeper you think, the more you long to connect. You want to explore these questions with others. You want dialogue. You want resonance. And yet, the more deeply you think, the fewer people seem able or willing to go there with you. It's no wonder so many intellectuals describe a kind of aching loneliness, not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being unseen. And this isn't just philosophical. Neuroscience confirms it. Studies show that when people feel intellectually outmatched in conversation, their brain's threat detection systems, especially the amygdala, light up. The response is similar to facing a physical threat. Why? Because it triggers that ancient fear of exclusion, that primal need to belong. And the deep thinker, even unintentionally, becomes the disruptor of harmony. Now add one more layer: modern culture. We live in a world that rewards simplicity, speed, and certainty. Social media algorithms favor bold claims over balanced reasoning, catchy slogans over careful analysis, and charisma over contemplation. In this environment, nuance doesn't trend, truth doesn't go viral, and the deeper the thought, the more invisible it becomes. This is the tragedy of the digital age for deep thinkers. You either dilute your message to fit the format, or you risk being unheard. That's why influencers with shallow ideas often have massive followings, while philosophers with profound insights remain unknown. But this isn't new, it's simply modernized. The ancient Greeks knew it. Socrates was sentenced to death, not for wrongdoing, but for questioning too much. Galileo was silenced for observing what others didn't want to believe. And countless thinkers have faced rejection not because they were wrong, but because they were early. So, what can be done? How does one live with depth in a world that skims the surface? Here, we turn once again to the wisdom of philosophers who lived this tension. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that solitude was the natural companion of the deep thinker, not as a punishment, but as a space of freedom. He wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." To him, solitude wasn't loneliness, it was clarity. A place to think without compromise, to create without distortion. He also advised something crucial. Don't expect the crowd to understand you. Instead, seek out those rare minds who do, even if they're few, even if they're long dead, through books, letters, ideas. And most of all, protect your insight. Don't waste it in places where it won't be received. That's not arrogance, that's wisdom. There is, of course, a cost to thinking deeply, but there is also a gift. Because while the path of the thinker can be isolating, it is also illuminating. You may walk it with fewer companions, but the view, the understanding, the freedom is unlike anything else. And sometimes just knowing that others have walked this path too, that you're not the only one, is enough.